For God's sakes, folks, do not just go randomly open your door when somebody knocks on it. I don't care where you live, and I'm going to tell you why right here. So for those of you who don't know, we've been in the security business for 20 years. We've dealt with murders, with home invasions, with corporate invasions, with shootouts. We've dealt with all types of things over the years that brings it a little closer to home when you tell people about warnings. And listen, nothing happens for like extended periods of time, right? If you've never had your home broken into, you're probably a little less cautious than the person who has. If you've never experienced a home invasion, you're going to be a little less cautious than the person that has. But I'm going to share something here with you. And look, I'm going to start trying to introduce as much of this as I can on our channel. I can tell you that our channel is being shadow banned on certain topics and on certain things that we roll out. I just put up one the other day. I'm getting ready to put a subsequent video up, and I'm going to post an audio here. The audio is what you really need to hear. The audio is about how many unwanted people are now filtering into our states. And it's a much bigger problem than anyone realizes. And this is why you need to, especially if you're in areas where these people are being bused to or where they're coming to, you got to be careful opening your doors. You got to be careful coming home at night. If you're in rural America, depending on what state, you're probably okay. But if you're in urban areas, depending on what cities or states you're close to, particularly if you're in Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, some of those states really have just a problem that is much bigger to deal with than anyone realizes. But I'm gonna tell you, actually I'll tell you two quick stories. About 16 years ago, and I told this on a previous video, so just bear with me for just a second. Young mother comes home, about 30 years old. She came home for lunch. 2 kids in daycare, husband at work. She had a security system from us. She did not arm her security system. If she'd armed the system, she would have known that somebody had broken into her house and they were there. A lot of people think, hey, the alarm system is just for at night whenever I'm asleep and I want to get out of bed. There's a lot more uses for the security system than that, but I'm not gonna. I'll digress way too much. But she came home for lunch. Apparently, she encountered 1 or 2 people in her kitchen. They murdered her, shot her dead right inside of her kitchen. This stuff does happen, and we have more stories like this happening. Now, the news media is still being fairly good about keeping that stuff off the front page, so to speak. However, it is really happening, and what I'm going to read you in just a second is in 3 weeks, how many people they have apprehended coming across that invisible line that's between the U.S. and that other location down there. But that's one story, right, of somebody breaking in. The other story is a friend of mine who's now passed away, Jim Tucker. During the middle of the day, somebody knew where his safe was in his house. Most break-ins, 80% of them, 80%, are done by people who already have been there. They know you. They're a contractor that's been in your house. That's why we do DIY security systems, because for most instances, you don't need somebody to come do the install for you. So, but Jim Tucker had a very large gun safe. Somebody wrapped a chain through tore a hole in his wall, wrapped a chain around his safe inside of his safe room, and ripped it out of the wall with a truck, drove it down the street until it busted open, came open, took the guns, left the safe in the street, and he lived rural again. And took his guns home. Now, it was somebody that knew it was there. Obviously, somebody had been in the house, knew it was there. Probably a family member. I've had family members break into local businesses here after we put systems in. And parents have caught their, drug-induced kid breaking in, stealing stuff. So be aware, be cautious. But this is a huge, man, this is in 21 days since October 1st, 2023. How many of these different nationalities have been apprehended coming into what we affectionately call home, the USA? So 30 of them that were apprehended. Now these are all, so just let me back up. These are all military age, competent fighting age people. This is what this story talks about. And I'll put a link to where this story is below, because as much as I'm getting where I don't care much about a lot of the major news outlets, they ran this story, and I don't think it got a lot of playtime. But 30 of them were from the country of, I'm putting it right down there. Okay? 60 of them were from the country that I'm putting right down there. 35 of them were from 100 plus. Now this is, dude, I'm telling you, you got to listen to this. 100 plus of them were from where Putin runs his army. That's a big freaking deal. 285 of them were from, and let that one sink in for a minute, that's a big deal. But the biggest one's the last one. That's a big deal, right? 285 of them from a place that really could care less about the U.S. But here's the big one. 2,000 of these apprehended at the border were from where? 2,000 plus from there. Folks, that's a big deal. Those were the ones that were apprehended. It's not the ones that got across. It's not the ones that we can't account for, that we don't know where they are. We had a luncheon one day with Governor Lee trying to explain to him the bigger problem here is that he doesn't understand how many of these that are already here or that are coming here that we have no records for. Back in 2012, a friend of mine in Special Forces, we had the Naturalization Immigration Department in another country. I'm just not going to say country names because then we get banned off of here. We had 2,000 plus people coming, of these 2,000 plus people that come from there, we had more than that apprehended coming across the border that were from this other country. The Naturalization Immigration departments in half of that country had been taken over by ISIS. So you got to stop and think. They were coming across with documentation. They were coming across with legal, certified, stamped, dated documentation, but it was still falsified documentation. These numbers that I just put up on your screen are from the last 3 weeks. That is 3 weeks of people coming across that we cannot account for, and that doesn't have anything to do with the ones that we didn't catch. A friend of mine works the border. And I'll still keep his name private. He's asked me to. I've tried to get him to come on. He won't. Hey, if you work the border or you've worked the border in the past and you will come on and talk with us, please let me know, because Americans really need to have some kind of a clue of what's happening down there. Unless you're in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, one of those border places, you don't know what's going on. You're somewhat removed from it. My sister lives in Tucson, Arizona. They've got a problem there, but not quite like right along the border has. They've had matter of fact, her husband, one of his best friends, had a shootout with what looked like to be, to him, guys bringing stuff across the border on pack mules. He was out hunting and encountered them, and it was really tense. I'm sorry, he didn't have a shootout. He had a standoff. Not a shootout, a standoff. I don't know how I said that. Do me a favor. We are deeply indebted to anybody who likes and subscribes and stays with our channel. We are being shadow banned, I think, quite regularly now because of the topics that we bring. Do me a favor. Like, subscribe, get a notification if there's a brand new video. There's a lot of things that we talk about with regards to security, firearms, guns, ammo, how you protect, how you put up your perimeter security, those types of things, which are going to be more and more important to Americans as we move through this process of America being invaded. Appreciate you. Thanks, and have a great day.